All right, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of White Chicks OB Analysis. Today we're going to be talking about emotions and moods. So first, establishing what an emotion, mood, and then I'll also say what values are in this context of the example because it comes back later. But emotions are intense, short-lived, and specific to a case. Kind of like if Professor Liff slapped me with a backhand, I'd probably have a lot of emotions, most likely anger or disgust, if you will. And moods are longer lasting and not necessarily tied to anything. So yeah, and then values, they're like your inner like base layer, like this is what I think is right and this is what I think is wrong. What I would describe it as is we have the weather, which is the emotions, climate, which is the moods, and then values, which is the whole world. I would describe it as that because it goes layer by layer by layer. And you essentially, when you act on your emotions, it's going to be very short-lived, as said, and very drastic. When you act on your moods, it's going to be longer lasting, and then your values are deep-seated. And so, like, whatever actions that we take based on each section determines kind of like how long it'll last usually, or how long the consequences will be. This is not every case, but we can see that if we make decisions with our values, it usually has to do something towards a longer lasting issue. Excuse me. But when we make something with our emotions, it tends to be something of a shorter term issue. Like I said, Liv slapping me in the face. And so looking at White Chicks, there is a lot of emotional labor that goes on in this movie. It's a concept in the book with Griffin and Phillips, but also there are a couple of studies on it. One example is Hochschild in 1983. We'll go later to, it looks at into the business world a little bit. And so the resulting, what is emotional labor? It is the resulting stress from acting in a way that opposes your emotions or moods or values. This comes with a lot of dissonance. So, you know, this is a big reason why there is emotional labor, because you're not acting the way that you should be, or you think you should be, or you would want to be. And so focusing mainly on the Copeland brothers, because we can see a lot of their emotional labor because of their distances or dissonance from who they actually are. They are black men that are now white women. BMW. And because of that, they have to have a lot different ways of acting. There are the physical ones that we talked about in a previous video, where they had to maintain more of a feminine gait or walk, and just had to like have a higher pitched voice that goes, still working on that laugh. But when we look at their social issues and a lot of the emotional stuff, they have to focus on social squabbles. A lot of the time, there's this scene with Vanessa where they have a diss battle, and then another one where they have a social or a dance-off, and those both have social consequences that, especially in the first one, not so much in the second one, are they have social consequences that are very like recognized by the other three girls, but not by the Copeland brothers. And each one has a different outcome when they're registering like how they should act in this social situation. So in the first one, they acted more manly, if you will, and they really ripped Vanessa a new one. But in the second one, they had a more feminine dance style. Not, I wouldn't say entirely feminine, but you know, the purpose was that it's generating or generally leaning more closely to the way a Wilson sister would act. Which is the people they were trying to impersonate. And so with all that, they kind of learned, and that helped with a lot of the emotional labor later on, but we'll talk about that. They also had to be super excited for shopping, which they were not at all. And then they also had to work on showing affection, especially because these were strangers that they were supposed to know as Wilson sisters, but also just in general, showing affection for men tends to be a little bit harder, and there's research to back that as well. Now, we can look at reducing, if you can see, we kind of fade into how this works in an OB or like in a work field. We can reduce emotional labor by shifting into deeper acting, matching their values, and then taking breaks. So to break that down, a shift into deeper acting is basically emotional labor. This dissonance is caused by surface level acting, and so if we take that and go deeper and really resonate with what we're trying to do, what we're trying to act like, that can reduce a lot of the emotional labor, and it can be a lot more or a lot less taxing if we match our values to the thing that we're trying to do. So one of the Copeland brothers really values honesty and loyalty, and in the movie he struggles a lot because of the fact that he's not being honest to his wife. He's not being loyal by like staying by her side. He has to go do this mission, and then he's also lying to people in general. And so he has a lot of this emotional dissonance, and it's making him really, really tired. But one thing that he does later on in the movie is match his values, which is, you know, helping people, serving for justice, and trying to better and like protect people. And so once he matches those values and goes into that deeper acting, it is a lot easier for him to lessen the emotional dissonance, and also just in general to act more like a Wilson sister, and be better undercover. Also breaks, you know, in the workplace, you can't always match the values to what a personal person has compared to the business, and you can't always make someone shift into deeper acting. This applies a lot to like restaurants where someone has to serve, and they might be having like a bad day, but they have to act really nice. Breaks are really big. I apologize for the cut, but breaks are really important for keeping up or staving away the emotional labor and keeping up that acting. And is really useful. I'm sure anybody who has had a restaurant job has understood the importance of just sitting down in the back, maybe on a stool, blowing some bubbles on one of those long sticks that you wave around, or like eating some food, or like smoking a cigarette, just having that break to really just chill out, center yourself again, and go back out into that field where you might need to act. If we look throughout the movie, we can see a lot of surface level acting. And so that's 1 through 5. And then a lot of deeper acting in 1 through 6, the phases. And one thing that we can see is that there's a lot of trouble and issues in the first 5 sections, but then not a lot as the deeper acting gets implemented later on in the show. And this produces better results. We can see this in a couple of studies. Also, similar to Hochschild, that deeper acting and being more connected to the values of the company or something like that can help really a lot with producing better results. There is also, we talked about it in another video, emotional cognition. There's research about that as well. It is essentially when you're emulating your leader that you have referent power to. And so one solution for the workplace is trying to stave off emotional labor, is having a leader who is really positive and really emulates the way a company wants to act, the culture that they have, or the values they may have, because this allows for them to kind of have other people emulate them, which helps lessen the amount of acting that the workers have to do. So anyways, thank you so much for watching the video. Have a great day.